Well, New York City could be headed towards an eviction crisis now that the moratorium has expired and hundreds of thousands of residents remain behind on their rents.
Yeah, the state's rent relief program really doesn't have enough money to provide assistance to everybody who has applied. There's a lot of people here. New York has the highest number of renters in the country. Right now, many of them don't know where to turn for help. Public advocate Jumaane Williams joining us this morning to discuss where we go from here. So good to see you, public advocate. Thanks for being here this morning.
Good to see you as well. Thanks for always having me here.
So let's talk about this because it's a serious issue for so many people, right? Governor Hochul requested additional federal funds on Thursday to replenish the emergency rental assistance program. But is there any indication that money is actually coming?
Well, no. And today we celebrate Dr. King, who in the last years of his life were dealing with economic issues, housing in particular. And we're going to hear folks try to raise his name while they're working against the things he worked for. And I have to tell you, it's the combination of things that are happening. So we know the eviction moratorium would have to end at some point. But in the middle of winter, in the middle of a corona surge, to have this moratorium, in addition to not supporting a good cause eviction protections, makes me believe that the governor may not understand the magnitude of the problem or may not have the ability to meet it.
Right. And another concern here, when you go to the state's website for this rent relief, it clearly states that the application deadline was on January 11th and that there is currently no money left. So where else can people go who desperately need help?
People can call or email our office. They can call 311. There's also a number of organizations that are providing people with legal assistance. But, you know, make no mistake about it. The crisis that already exists has been just made worse. And we have a looming worsening of this crisis with tens of thousands of people across the state who are going to be facing eviction. This is a problem, and unfortunately, state government in particular has not matched it. And so we're all very concerned as we celebrate Dr. King today.
So what would you have liked? Would you have liked it to have seen it extended again to June? What was the answer here?
Again, you have to talk about this in combination. And so it's the fact that the eviction moratorium is not being extended a few weeks. The date was probably set when we thought we'd be out of the surge. But compounding that is the fact that the governor won't support good cause eviction protections that would at least provide some layer of protections for tenants across the states. And so there isn't always one answer, but she has chosen none of the answers.
Speaking of those protections, is there anything that can be done to help these renters on the city level?
You know, it's difficult, and I would say I also think about our small landlords as well.
Right.
I think we have a lot more in common with the tenants, but we can do what we can do, like making sure we are following the guidelines when it comes to court and making sure everybody has the legal assistance that they need. Those same groups can provide assistance for tenants in New York City. Lastly, what's the strangest thing to me, NYCHA, which has always been the worst landlords on the top of our office's list, has already put out a letter saying they're going to restart eviction proceedings, which was just amazing to me. And so we are facing a crisis, and I'm not sure that people, at least the state government, understand the magnitude of it.
Yeah, and I think it is also, but you always think about the renters, but there are those small landlords as well that are suffering. So it's really a double-edged sword here, hurting both sides of the equation here. But I do want to talk about another big story while we have you here, and that's Rikers Island, because you just paid another visit to the complex last week, spoke to some of the inmates here. We had one of the New York Times reporters on Friday with quite the expose of videos. It really showed that things aren't getting any better. So what is the answer here?
Well, when I went again, I went for very specific reasons, so I couldn't compare apples to apples. But we did see people who were using food as a way to express the concerns that they had. And there were a number of them, I have to say.
What did you go for?
We went because we heard that people had stopped eating. We heard that people were on a hunger protest. We wanted to make sure people were eating and that the conditions were being addressed. And we did identify a few issues that were quite concerning. We brought them up to Department of Corrections. I am concerned because we heard some answering machines messages that were called back about retaliation that happened as soon as we left. And so we have to lift that up. But the answer is, one, I wish the governor would pay a visit to Rikers because it is a crisis and she still hasn't. Two, we do have to get some staffing. Everybody on both sides of those bars who are in danger, the corrections officers, the staff, and the people who are housed there, agree that the minimum standards are not being met, and that's a huge problem. And so we have to get staffing levels so people can meet their minimum standards. Lastly, we do have to continue to incarcerate. We do have to use a system that doesn't force everybody to wait trial there. And we got to get these courts moving.
Okay, so that's the situation going on with Rikers today. And while we have you here today, I do want to ask, it is Martin Luther King Jr. today. A lot of people are celebrating. There's events around the city. How are you honoring Mr. King?
We'll be going around the city as well, joining some of those celebrations, encouraging people to remember his legacy, but the true revolutionary nature of his legacy, not the sanitized version that a lot of people speak up. There will be people raising his name today that while he risks his life, won't even risk their elected title, won't even risk not being in the picture with someone powerful. And so it's always strange for me on this day that people praise his name, which we should, but are often in the way of the things that he was fighting against. And to be fighting for voting rights now, to be fighting for housing rights right now is just a dismay for what he fought for so many years ago.
Public Advocate Jumaane Williams, thank you so much for always giving us some of your time. We appreciate it.
Thank you.